Following episode may contain inappropriate material. Listener discretion is advised.
Everybody, welcome to a fabulous edition of Mattalk. It is Jason and John. We are here to talk to you about the Full Metal Jacket meets A Few Good Men version of Matlock. Yes, that is right, ladies and gentlemen. This combines the essence of both movies, and funny enough, it was made before A Few Good Men, and it might have actually been made before Full Metal Jacket. Like, this movie, or this show, really is ahead of its time, because I didn't order a Code Red, but did you order a Code Red?
Well, I'm going to say, I think Full Metal Jacket comes out in 87. I think, which is when this episode aired. And actually, we should probably tell the folks it's a two-parter. So for this episode of Matt Talk, we're just going to do both of them as one giant episode. But yeah, I think Full Metal Jacket, 1987. So it is going to be quite a militaristic, if you will, episode of Matt Talk.
Sergeant was not as fun as a drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
No, he was not. And I also think because you're on network television, he couldn't be as creative as the one in Lee Ermey, I believe is the name. R. Lee Ermey was the drill instructor in Full Metal Jacket. You know what? Since we're talking about it, did you like Full Metal Jacket? Have you seen it?
I've seen the first half of Full Metal Jacket.
That's all you need to see. The second half of the movie is like, it's the same thing you've seen in every other Vietnam War movie. There's nothing interesting about it. First half is awesome. Second half is, as far as I'm concerned. You know what, though? We have to talk real quickly about a wonderful email that we got last weekend, as a matter of fact, Jason, while we were in New Jersey. Larry Hale is an avid listener. You dropped us a line through the Facebook page of Matt Talk and asked us to give our little synopsis of how we started watching Matlock. And he complimented us, saying that we would probably be well under 40 years old, that we sounded fairly young. And man, oh man, he was right on it. I mean, I'm 45, but you know, he was still in the ballpark.
Yeah, I'm way below 40.
37, come on.
That's not right. I am 28 years old.
You are not. That's 28
right. I'm a glowing 28.
Get out.
Like, you look at me and be like, I can't believe that guy has a 13-year-old daughter. And I'll just be like, well, I made some decisions in high school that weren't right.
Have you been drinking tonight?
No.
Okay.
I don't drink, John. I occasionally have wine, which I should have some wine tonight. That actually sounds pretty good. I got watermelon flavored wine, and it's delicious.
Okay. All right. Well, you can give us your review of that on the next Met Talk. Sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
All right. Well, Larry Hale, anyways, thank you very much for the compliments. You said we're doing a great job, and we appreciate it. And look, that's why we do this show. We love to entertain you folks who love Matlock as much as we do. And Jason, they can contact us through the Facebook page and also through Twitter, but where else can they contact us?
Well, thanks for asking, John. It's very simple. They can go to benmattalk@gmail.com. That is benmattalk@gmail.com.
And of course, the Facebook page is at Matt Talk Podcast, and on Twitter at Mattalk_podcast. And we swear we're going to do a better job with the Twitter. The Twitter has been challenging, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard to get some reactions on Twitter, so help us out. Go over, follow us on Twitter. Again, it's Mattalk_podcast. That'll help us out some. We're not real proud of how that Twitter looks, but we're darn proud that you joined us for this episode. So, Jason, without any further ado, shall we hit our opening statements.
I cannot wait to give our opening statements.
There we go. Well, let's get to it then. All right. The episode that we're going to take a look at, as I mentioned, we're going to combine the two parts into one. It is The Court Martial Part 1, which aired on February 17th, 1987, and The Court Martial Part 2, which aired 1 week later, February 24th, 1987. Man, oh man, Jason, we have a ton of guest stars. I mean, a ton. Let me start off with first, George Stanford Brown, who will be playing the role of Major Jeffrey Hamilton. You may have seen him in various movie roles such as Roots, the Steve McQueen action film Bullet, and the Richard Pryor comedy Stir Crazy. One little side note about George. He was married to the actress Tyne Daly, who of course is famous for her role on Cagney and Lacey, the CBS all-female cop show. Interestingly enough, Tyne Daly, when she married George, received a lot of backlash because, you know, they were an interracial couple in the 70s when that was not maybe, shall I say, looked upon favorably by a lot of society. And so it caused a little bit of some issues for Tyne Daly and for George Stanford Brown as well. Moving on to our next guest star, a gentleman by the name of Dana Elcar, who has been in MacGyver, 2010, the year we made contact, The Sting, as well as many other movies. He is going to be playing the role of Arthur Hughes. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that Danny the bartender would be played by Mr. Tim Reed. Of course, many people may know him as Venus Flytrap from WKRP in Cincinnati, or as the dad on the sitcom Sister Sister.
Or as Mike Hanlon in It, the miniseries from 1990. Which Tim Reed is one of those guys, like I never seek out his work, but when he pops into something, I'm always really happy to see him.
Yeah, I agree. He's got like that stabilizing feel to him. You know what I mean? So, all right. Our next guest star, Barry Corbin, stars as Colonel Mccrae. Barry Corbin's been in a ton of things, including he played the role of Merle on Modern Family. And I remember him most as Maurice on the CBS comedy Northern Exposure. And I'll tell you right now, I haven't thought about that show in forever, Jason. Are you familiar with?
I am not. I know Northern Exposure was one of the shows that was a response to Twin Peaks, but I have never seen Northern Exposure.
Even though this is a bit role, I had to jot this down. Playing the role of MP Sergeant Macy, none other than Chaz Palminteri. Of course, well known for his roles in Bullets Over Broadway, The Usual Suspects, and a movie that I feel does not get enough love, A Bronx Tale.
The Bronx Tale is one of those movies my dad watches before he goes to bed. He
really
rotates between that and Gotti with Ahmad Asante and the Godfather movies.
Okay, so you're familiar with the greatness that is A Bronx Tale.
I've never seen it.
Really? You need to borrow it from your dad because it's really good. I really, really liked it. It might be one of my all-time quote gangster end quote films. All right, and our last guest star is a gentleman that when he popped up on the screen, I'm like, he looks so familiar. And as soon as I found out why I knew him, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm talking about playing the role of Major Orlando, no relation to me, Glenn Turman, who is from the show Fargo, Mr. Mercedes, and of course, my favorite show, he's from The Wire, playing, of course, Mayor Royce.
Who does he play in Mr. Mercedes?
Good question.
I love this show. I love the first show you said too. I can't remember what the first show was that you said.
The first one was Fargo.
Yes, that's another good one. This one knows how to pick TV shows. Like seriously.
Let me quickly look it up. He plays Bernard on Mr. Mercedes.
Bernard, okay.
Side note, Glenn was married to Aretha Franklin for a while.
Nice.
I did not know that. I'm going to throw this out there as while I was doing some research on these episodes. There is going to be quite a few goofs that probably you and I will not be able to pick up. There's a lot of military errors in terms of procedures, protocols, and all kinds of things. And so, with all due respect to those veterans who have served in the military, I can't really comment on those. And I think I could speak for Jason and say I don't think he can either, because we've never been in the military. So it's kind of totally new to me. It's kind of, if you will, the shoe goes on the other foot. I love that new show, Young Rock, but I point out all the wrong things that happen when it comes to the wrestling facts, because I'm a huge pro wrestling nerd. So I can empathize. So with that being said, we have a lot to get to, Jason. Are you ready
to
give
ready.
an opinion?
I was born ready. Yep.
You were born ready? I don't even have to. I don't have to give you the statement. You know, it's time to testify, right?
Yep.
All right, let's get ready to testify. The Court Martial. The plot of the two-part episode is that an army soldier is accused of killing an officer. Ben agrees to help until that soldier disappears and goes AWOL. Can Ben save him from a long stint in the brigade? Find out here in a few minutes. The show opens with a scene that I'm sure you weren't shocked by. Some army gentlemen exercising and singing their different mottos. I liked it. I thought it set the mood, set the tone really well. What'd you think?
Yes, I did. I thought it set where we were going. I'm surprised it took us as long to get to a death as it did. And then I was surprised that there was 2. Spoiler alert. But
there are 2, yes.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get to the first one shortly. So we are introduced to Lieutenant Walters, and man, oh man, is he a jerk. He gives the guys a bunch of crap about shaving, which I'm not sure if that's a real thing or not with the military, about when you specifically have to shave. I'm going to say that it probably is. He frames the company with a cigarette, and so therefore they all have to do night exercises. I will say this. The night exercises was completely, as soon as he said it, I'm like, okay, here's the red flag. This is where the murder is going to happen.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was waiting every time, like somebody tripped. I was like, oh, we're going to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And here, kudos. It was a little swerve. That's not where the murder takes place.
It's because of what happens there. Think.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're introduced in the barracks to Private Bobby Thomas, who is sick, and he talks to Chris Hughes, Private Chris Hughes, who's our main character, and he's somewhat confronted by Lieutenant Walters about his illness, as well as he berates some of the other folks. So the company is told that they have to run this particular obstacle course in 2 hours and I think 15 minutes. Private Thomas is so sick that he only gets a fraction of the way in, turns around and goes back, and he's berated by Lieutenant Walters and sent back out. And so therefore, when the company returns, Private Hughes really gets kind of really aggressive in his questioning of Lieutenant Walters about sending Bobby Thomas back out into the obstacle course. And unfortunately, as we don't really see it, but we're told about it, Bobby Thomas is found, and we find out in the next scene that his appendix burst and he died. That's death number 1 in this episode of Matlock. Jason, so far, what do you think so far?
I am in. I love this episode so far. I'm completely invested, so much so that I put my phone down and just tune into the show.
Private Hughes confronts Walters at the officers' club. He just barges in, man, and Chris Hughes pulls a knife, but he's disarmed, and he's thrown out. Go back to your barracks. And then the officers, they have this really odd interaction with Lieutenant Walters, which kind of right off the bat makes you think maybe these dudes don't like this guy.
Oh, the weird stare off?
Yeah.
That was so awkward.
Yes, indeed. Lo and behold, within the very next scene, Walters is stabbed to death. I drew a smiley face because I don't think I've said this on this podcast, but I think Lieutenant Walters deserved it. I'm sorry. He was a jerk. He was a jerk for no good reason. I probably would have stabbed him too. I mean,
Yeah, that's why I was really surprised that we found out he had a romantic interest.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Yeah. All right. Private Hughes is accused of killing Lieutenant Walters because the knife was found in his footlocker and he's placed under arrest. And then we transition to introducing Ben Matlock. All right. We've talked about this before. This seems like this is yet another house for Ben Matlock, doesn't it? I don't think it's the house with the chicken coop. It certainly isn't the house in subsequent seasons, like when he's living next door to Don Knotts. How many homes does Ben Matlock have?
He's got all of the homes. All of Georgia. He's got white homes. And the chicken coop could be in the back.
Okay, maybe, but I don't know.
Like, I don't remember this house.
Yeah.
Did it move in between episodes?
It has like a basketball court sized porch on the front of it. I'm like, good God, man, you could play tennis on that porch.
Well, dude, I liked it when he was dancing to his Mozart, but it looked like he was having a seizure. I was really concerned for Andy Griffith. I didn't know what that was.
Well, that was his happy dance because it's Sunday, and man, he doesn't do business on Sunday. The mere fact that Arthur Hughes shows up to beg Ben to take the case, which Ben does accept it after, Arthur agrees to pay him $250,000, right? But he's like, no, I'll take it for $100K, but I might be grumpy and I might want more money later. Here's the thing. What's the relationship between Arthur and Ben? I mean, we just assume they're friends, I guess.
Some kind of friends going way back. That's
sometime
later in the episode, a little bit. But enough that he's a pain in the ass. It only comes around when he wants something. And he always gets what he wants. And this is no exception to that rule.
That's right. His son is Chris Hughes, Private Hughes, who is, of course, accused of killing Lieutenant Walters. So our next scene, Ben is in the brig talking to Chris Hughes about what happened. And Chris asked him why he took the case. He said because he believes he's innocent. Then we move on to seeing Ben walking around the base, and he's constantly saluted. And this is one of those things. This was a big, big thing that people online commented about, that would never happen. Civilians do not get saluted unless they're the president or a senator or congressman. But even then, the base would have made a big deal about, hey, if you see this guy, you can salute him. And that makes sense because you could show me a lineup of like 6 senators and I only know like a couple of them. So I wouldn't be able to go, oh, that's so-and-so from the senator for Utah. I don't know, so, but this was a big, big complaint by many people online.
Even in the 80s, they didn't do that?
Yes, even in the 80s, they did not do that. So
it's fascinating. Well, they do other things at this military base that they don't do at most military bases.
Okay. Like, I can't wait to hear what those might be.
Oh, yeah. You don't know?
Well, we'll see. All right. So Ben finally gets to talk to General Connors, who then is General Connors introduces him to Major Orlando, and Chris gets released to what essentially is house arrest, kind of. And then Ben meets Major Hamilton. And I'll tell you what, Hamilton and Ben, that was some good stuff right there. They have a couple of interactions, and it was really good. They meet at the officers' club. We're tipped off to a little clue that Lieutenant Walters had a book of poker winnings. All right, so we're getting a clue that, spoiler alert, we'll fast forward a little bit. They never do find the black book. And there's a really weird reason why. Should we go ahead and talk about that, or should we not? What do you think, Jason? Should we go ahead and just jump to it?
Sure. There's no rules on this podcast.
There you go.
We're pantsers. We just work from the seat of our pants. I learned that term interviewing authors recently.
Pantsers?
Yeah, just fly by the seat of their pants when they're writing.
Well, I'll be darned. I didn't know that. All right.
I did not either.
Well, much later in the episode, it's revealed that book was actually a listing of tabs. So basically, these guys play cards. They play poker, but not for money. For like, oh, Jason, you owe me $5 because of this. Oh, I owe $10 to Justin. Oh, Max owes us, it's kind of weird, and I've never heard of that either. And Ben claims that he's never heard of that. I don't even know how that would work, to be honest with you. But I'm not a card guy, so I wouldn't.
But
know.
we're not even there yet, because remember, we find out about their card games even more.
That's right. And I will take back my previous statement. I'm a card guy when Phase 10 is played. Oh, yeah. Love me some Phase 10. Sergeant Owens doesn't want to talk to Ben, and that leads us into the appearance of our favorite, Tyler Hudson.
Matlock walks up to Tyler and goes, I have a great idea. I was like, nope, not going to do it. We're back to the same not going to do it speech. I'm not doing it, Ben. I'm not doing it. Come on, I just need you to be a private. Ben, I was an officer. Yeah, but I need you to go in as a private undercover. But Ben, send someone else. He's like, I can't. Charlene's already doing something, which we're going to talk about the way Ben uses Charlene in all these schemes. Oh, that's coming up.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, I love the actual quote I wrote down because it was hilarious. I can't send her. He just points at her. I like the idea that Tyler has a little more of the backstory, that he was an officer in the U.S. Army. I like that. I thought that was good. But with that, then the next scene, this is what I didn't understand, and this didn't make sense. If you're an officer in the Army and you know how the pecking order goes, why would you walk into the barracks and be all Mr. Hot Stuff and like mouth off to the sergeant and that? I'm like, wouldn't you automatically know I can't do that? Like, I didn't understand that. Let's talk for a minute about Ben's conversation with the bartender, Danny. And Danny, he's the bartender. He hears what's going on. He's kind of the old lady that's got all the good gossip in the neighborhood. And he gives this little tidbit that the 5 guys who play poker, the 5 officers, they all hate each other's guts. So he finds it weird that all these guys that hate each other would get together every week and play poker. So our next scene involves a young lady by the name of Nancy, who, by the way, is fancied by Private Use, Chris. And again, we have a theme that has shown up, and that is, what is Charlene wearing? That looked like something you would see on Downton Abbey.
I don't know. She looks so cute in this episode. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Patrick Duffy is one lucky guy.
All right. Ben ends up meeting with Colonel Mccrae, and man, this was classic Ben, man. He's like, oh, we're going to have lunch. And then he drops all this knowledge on him. And then just like, oh, you know what? I'm not hungry. Never mind. Boom. I got you, Colonel. That was some good stuff, man. That was really, really good stuff. Not only is Ben good at sticking it to people, but he apparently also, Jason, is like a ninja, because he snuck up on the sergeant in the barracks. And I'm like, how does that even happen? Shouldn't you, as an Army person, I don't care if you have your headphones on or not, shouldn't you be alert enough to stop an old man from sneaking up on you?
Yeah, you really should be.
I mean, your job is to defend this country, and, you should have some hand-to-hand combat skills that can assist in that, and you just let Ben Matlock sneak up on you.
It's the white suit, man. I'm telling you, it's like invisibility cloak.
Yeah. And 10 to 1, if this was real life, Ben Matlock wouldn't be quiet and sneaking in. He'd probably be whistling or singing a song. And so that even makes that sergeant look worse. But so I thought this was kind of cool. This is something we're going to see multiple times through the episode. And that is a secret meeting between Ben and Tyler Hudson. This one takes place in the latrine, where they swap some information. And then Ben leaves with the, hey, you missed the spot, which aggravates Tyler.
I like their secret meetings, too. It's like they're spies. It's like Matlock suddenly became like Jack Ryan or Jack Bauer.
Yeah, kind of. I agree. I liked them. I thought they were they were a neat twist.
I was waiting for Matlock to torture somebody in a barn. Give me the codes.
beep, beep. 24. Anyways, hey man, would you go have a beer at the Canyon Inn?
Go have a wine at the Canyon Inn.
Oh, well, I don't know. This place, I don't know. Would it have wine? It looks like it's kind of a rough and tumble beer only type of place. that Charlene's hanging out and she and Nancy are collecting a little intel. And what do you know? Charlene flirts with Lieutenant Lynch. And he has to leave, though. So that flirting wasn't as convincing as it could have been, Charlene. And he leaves with two shady dudes. And so Charlene tells her father that she wants to stay and keep working this angle with Lynch. So let's go ahead and talk about this. I think we have to. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. I am very much bothered by the fact that Ben kind of pimps his daughter out in this episode to get bank records. It makes me a little bit upset. I'm just going to throw it out there.
It works out in the end. I mean, the first time he sends her, that's on him. But the second time, that's on her. She decides to stay and go back because she finds the guy good looking. I think that's why she stayed, because she likes this dude, which we find out, later on in the episode. It is awkward that Ben is like involved in his daughter's sex life.
Yes, it is. And again, like we've commented so many times in the past, it's so, I don't know if misogynistic is the right term or not. It's icky. It's kind of weird and gross and bizarre. And so,
yeah, if my daughter ever gets a sex life, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know anything about it. I don't even want to meet the guy.
Parenting tips from Jason. All right, let's pull it back here and get back into the chronology here. We meet Captain Campbell, and Ben, man, he goes after him and he brings out the heavy guns by revealing that his wife is having an affair. That's some crazy stuff to be dropping on a man.
Yeah, especially a crazy man.
Well, we'll find that out in a little bit. Yeah, indeed. So we have another secret meeting with Tyler. This one, if I remember correctly, that's the painting the flagpole, because the last one is cleaning the garbage cans, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm.
Okay, so Sergeant Owens wasn't at the club. That's what Tyler admits that he heard, and gives that little bit of information to Ben. So we get time for kind of, I guess you could say, it's time for the courtroom, I guess is the best way to say. And Sergeant Owens testifies that he saw Hughes leaving the officers club, but Ben had already talked to the chef, aka Parker. I think his name was Sergeant Parker, and Sergeant Parker claims that indeed he saw Owens still at the depot at the time that he supposedly saw Hughes. When it comes time to testify, Parker's changed his mind. He's not going to do it, but Ben talks him into doing it. They show up, and what do you know? We end the first part of the episode with the fact that Chris Hughes has gone AWOL. Jason, what do you think about Chris Hughes just leaving the base and going AWOL?
Why? That's one of the parts of the episode I did not like. Like, there's no reason for him to go. Like, why leave, man? Matlock said he was going to go take care of it. I come with baggage again because I've seen the whole series, but obviously Matlock's been in this guy's life for a while. That he should know that Matlock rarely loses. And when he does, 7 years later, he gets them off.
Yeah, you just have to wait a few years, and then, everything will be okay.
You're eventually getting off.
That's right. There you go. I just didn't, yeah, and I also thought the AWOL storyline was a little bit weird. I agree with you. You know you're going to get caught. You know that's going to make you look bad. I don't know why you would do it. But let's move into the second part of the episode. Hey man, what'd you think of old tired Tyler? That was some levity that we needed, right?
As soon as I hit this cot, I'm never getting up again. And
there you go.
Lays his head down, and they're like, "Oh, 1,800 hours, we're going out."
Yeah, this time it's the Mr. Lynch, Lieutenant Lynch, in charge of the speed march. Our next scene has Charlene grilling Nancy as to Chris's whereabouts when the military police show up, and Chaz Palminteri makes his appearance on screen. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought when he was doing that showdown with Charlene, I'm like, is he gonna backhand her? Because I'm thinking that might happen.
Not in this show.
Because she wanted a warrant, he didn't have a warrant. And also, too, was it not obvious who she was on the phone with at the beginning, Nancy?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knew it was Chris. Come on.
Yeah, this whole plot line of him going AWOL is just a waste of time. This is the worst part of the whole episode for me.
And they found him at what looks like one of the scenes from Breaking Bad. Like, I expected the meth van or the meth RV to be behind him because he's just in this random desert. Like, I'm like, how long have you been there and why are you there? And Ben just comes walking in. Hey there, son, and gives him the old pep talk. I'm like, come on, this is ridiculous.
Mr.
So Chris
White, I just felt like I needed to leave, bitch. That's a quote from Breaking Bad.
That's right. If anybody has not seen Breaking Bad that's listening to Mattalk, you should watch it. It's a great show, but that's where that reference comes from. So Chris turns himself in. Ben asks Major Hamilton about the cut on Lieutenant Walter's hand, and then he goes one-on-one one more time with Hamilton, man. These two, it's like two heavyweight fighters. You know, it's like Ali and Frazier, man. They're just going at it. And it made for some really good, entertaining television, though. Ben walks on back to the officers' club and finds out that Parker has been given a little vacation, 30 days. You know, Parker was a little bit afraid of retaliation. That's why he was hesitant to, in the first place, kind of testify. Now he's taking this 30-day leave, and it leaves Ben without his material witness. Jason, what did you think about this plot device?
I mean, I saw it coming the second Ben talked to this guy.
Really?
I knew he was going to be vanished. Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. That one I didn't think that. I thought he would, since he turned him, that he would stay turned.
I thought he was going to kill him. I thought somebody was going to kill the cook because.
Okay.
That's how far I thought it would go. So when he just left, boy, did he? Dun, dun, dun. We never find out what happened to him.
So we go to the night exercises with the company that Tyler is in, and Tyler, look at how sneaky he is. He fakes a twisted ankle and then shimmies off into the underbrush and sees Lynch and these two shady dudes doing some type of dirty deal out in the middle of the woods. So Danny, the bartender, is cleaning up when Ben comes back to the officers' club, and Danny remembers that there was one thing he forgot to mention, and that was this. When he cleans up, Jason, he likes to take all the ashtrays, likes to clean them and stack them up, and set them on the corner of the bar. And what did he find out of place the next morning when he strolled in?
Cigarette ashtrays.
That's right, an ashtray on the bar, the remnants of a cigar in it. Another clue.
Inside places. Do you remember when you smoked in grocery stores?
No, I don't remember ever being able to smoke in grocery stores.
Nobody remembers this. I swear to God, when I was like 2 or 3, I remember ashtrays at the end of the aisles. I might be nuts, but I swear I saw them.
Well, here's where folks can let us know whether that is an actual thing or not. They can drop us a line over at the Facebook page. Of course, I'm talking about at Mattalk Podcast. You can tweet it at us at Mattalk_podcast, or Jason, they can email us where?
BNMATTALK@gmail.com. Please hit us up about this, about anything. Like, tell me what you're doing for the weekend. I'd love to hear. Just whatever it is, email us. We will get back to you on the next recorded episode.
There you go. How about Ben just barging into this poker game, man? And this is where you find out all about the running tabs gimmick and whatnot. But yeah, man, Ben, for being on not on home court, you know what I'm saying? Like he's got some spine. He's thrown out some challenges. He's doing what he darn well pleases. Yeah, he's in like beast mode, as I said last time.
I'm surprised these guys are putting up with it. I mean, they're pretty connected within that base. Like, I'm sure they could shut some stuff down.
Yeah. Or beat the tar out of Ben. Again, the hand-to-hand combat. So, Charlene, we're back at the bar. She's flirting a little more with Lynch, although this really scuzzy dude keeps hitting on her, and that leads to some punches exchanged. And I think this is all just to further the idea that Lieutenant Lynch is not really a bad guy, and Charlene's really liking him, et cetera, et cetera. So we have our final, I believe, secret meeting with Tyler, in which Tyler tells Ben, hey, this is what I saw. Lynch is out there. They're swapping out stuff. I don't know what they're swapping out, but they're swapping something out. And he's asked to go to the depot and get some more evidence. And now, let's get a little dark, if you will. Let's go down a path that, to be honest with you, I didn't see coming. And that would be Ben's meeting with Mrs. Campbell. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about some domestic violence here, as it appears that Captain Campbell is a man that's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Is not very gentle and not very understanding. And, well, he's just a violent son of a gun, I guess you could say.
He's a POS. Like, this beating was Ben's fault.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say I agree with you. I'm going to pass judgment as well. And I'm going to say
but to be fair, Ben didn't know that this guy was that. I mean, he knew that he could have been a scumbag, but not like on this level of scumbagism.
Right. Exactly. So, but yeah, Ben kind of, he's got some blood on his hands for this one. Okay, here is some great Tyler Hudson, man. I got to say, we've been needing some Tyler Hudson, as I don't feel that we've had the full breadth of Tyler Hudson, but he portrays a lieutenant and he bosses two privates around in the depot just so he can get himself close to the merchandise, and finds out that Lynch is dealing cocaine. And as he goes to leave, the MP showed up and he does get caught. And so Hamilton cross-examines, I guess you could say, or questions is a better word, Tyler about what he was doing in the depot. To the rescue is, of course, the General Connors and Ben. And then guess what Tyler does? Oh, yeah? You think I was impersonating an officer? I am an officer. I'm Tyler Hudson, 277-894-47892. Dropping some bombs on Hamilton, man. The sergeant, not Alexander Hamilton, not that guy. All right, let's go to the courtroom. A different courtroom than the one that we were talking about before. So it turns out, and I felt like, was Ben like trying to just say that Sergeant Owens was a dummy? Because he goes, so you dropped out of high school. Huh. So how do you run this machine? You know how to do it? You're the only one? Huh? Okay, this telex. Huh? Good for you.
What's hotter, flush or straight, which proves that he doesn't even know how to play poker. So no poker was actually being played in that room.
Well, that was the colonel. That was not the sergeant. That's the colonel who claims that the colonel knows how to run the telex, and clearly he does not. He can't even do it, right? So this just destroys the Owens' testimony, along with Mccrae, destroys this idea that Sergeant Owens could have seen Hughes leaving the officers' club, because clearly he was in the depot. All right, this is where we get to a part of the episode that I just really didn't like it. Charlene does not want to cross-examine Lieutenant Lynch because Charlene likes him. And so Ben convinces her. She goes in, she begs Lynch to talk about Lieutenant Walters, blackmailing him to do illegal stuff. Again, see our previous comments about how this comes together and how everybody seems to have a say in Charlene's love life, and why does she have to be so boy crazy? I mean, it's just, it's bad. Jason, your thoughts?
I love Charlene. I've said that before, but I see this didn't bother me so much because, like you said, there's hints that this is a good guy. And what Charlene actually does during this cross-exam is it lets him come clean, which he ends up being happy about in the end because he's glad that he got it off his chest. He's not as implicated as the other guys. Like, he's not as involved in the crimes, but he knows about who did it. And I'm okay with her following through on things because I think it works out for them in the end.
I still have problems with it. But nonetheless, Lynch admits that every one of the officers is involved in this drug ring where they were just selling cocaine to various different points throughout the United States military bases. And the poker game itself was actually just a cover for a drug meeting. All right. So Mrs. Campbell meets with Ben. She confesses that she loved Walter. And Ben lets it slip that he thinks that Campbell killed Lieutenant Walters. I didn't like this scene either because, as you said earlier on, it was not, to me, I couldn't buy that anyone would love Lieutenant Walter. I mean, that dude was a world-class jerk. Like, he seems like the type of dude to love him and leave him and wouldn't be in a relationship with a married woman, or let alone Mrs. Campbell.
Well, I think that the fact that he is a jerk says that he would be in a relationship with an angry woman. And it makes sense that this guy would kill him because, he wants the power over her and all the other issues.
All right. Well, yeah, I give you that. Yeah, in regards to Colonel Campbell, that makes sense that he would want to be have all the power. We have an awkward interaction in the hallway between Charlene and Lieutenant Lynch, and then we go to Campbell being on the stand, and he loves to plead the fifth, does he not?
Yes, he does.
But soon enough, the bank records seal the fate of Colonel Campbell and the others, along with the fact that the cigar that was found by Danny the bartender at the bar belongs to Campbell. But the final damning piece of evidence is that the gold chain cut Walter's hand, and there's also a cut on the neck of Colonel Campbell.
He couldn't even get some makeup to cover that up. Like, come on, man. At least try. Put a little effort into pretending you're innocent.
Here's what I loved. I loved all the quick cut and kind of extreme close-ups of everyone's face when it was revealed. And everybody had that look of a gasp on them. I thought that was pretty cheesy, but I chuckled at that. So, needless to say, Chris is absolved of the crime. Nancy's in the hallway. She embraces Chris. They kiss, and they're going to live happily ever after. And then, only then, did we see one of the greatest gestures of friendship ever on television. And that's Ben telling Tyler, "Give me 5!"
Yeah, that was like a Saved by the Bell style ending.
It was.
Where they all jump up and high five.
Yeah. All right, Jason, anything else that we overlooked before we get to closing statements?
No, I don't. And I'm really curious where you're going to fall into this episode.
All right. Well, with that, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our closing statements. This is the part of the podcast where we're going to rate this episode, or in this instance, episodes, based on a gavel system. All right. 5 gavels for a really great episode, 1 gavel for one that is kind of lousy. Not only will we give this ranking, but we'll also justify why we gave this episode the gavel count that it received. Jason, I'm going to let you go first, man.
This episode, it started at a 5. When I sat down at this computer with John today, I was going to give it a 5. But then I was reminded of the whole AWOL situation and the way Charlene was used initially to just go on a date with a dude. But it didn't drop it down too much. It only dropped it down to a 4 out of 5 because this episode, you can't see my phone. I don't know why I'm holding it up to the camera. This episode made me put my phone down and stop taking notes and just watch the show. And it gets kudos for that. So 4 out of 5 for me. I love this episode mostly.
Okay, I'm not too far from you. I gave it 3.5 gavels. I really liked the acting. As I said, Ben Matlock versus Major Hamilton. Every time, those 3 times they were on, it was just, like I said, a battle of massive egos. It was awesome. Thought I had a great cast. I did thoroughly enjoy seeing a very young Chaz Palminteri and a younger Glenn Turman as well on this episode. I agree with you. I did not like the Charlene's storyline nor the Mrs. Campbell's affair storyline. So I felt like the 2 women, their storylines in this show, or this episode, were really bad. They were really subpar and I don't know, slightly sexist maybe. And I felt that we needed more comedy. I think that the tone was very serious, and I know it has to be serious. I think, though, I would have liked just a little more comedy in there. There only seemed to be a couple of spots with Tyler, but I would have liked to seen a little more comedy, especially among the 3 main characters, Charlene, Ben, and Tyler. So
that's not bad. It's the closest we've been, I think, in a while.
Yeah, it has. It has. All right. Well, we're going a little bit long because we did take a look at 2 episodes together. So let's start wrapping things up. Jason, would you like to talk about, I don't know, any of your podcasting projects that you got going on?
Oh, boy. Yes, I would love to talk about my podcasting projects I have going on. Right now, I'm currently recording 4 interviews to 6 interviews a week. I'm releasing 2 a week, which you can see the dilemma that I currently have. And you can check out all of those wonderful interviews over at 3 Geeks Podcast. Just find us on Libsyn, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. iHeartRadio is coming very soon, so be ready for that. Amazon Music is also coming very, very soon. You can also find us at thescenesnobs.com.
All right. What about your website?
PVDgeeks.ninja. Thank you, John.
There you go. No problem. You can catch my personal podcast, the PVDcast, available at PVDcast.com or all of those other gigantic podcasting platforms that Jason just mentioned. And also, I'm also on the Scene Snobs Network as well, thescenesnobs.com, which, by the way, every Saturday at noon, you can catch an old episode of Mattalk. It seems weird to call it old since we've only been doing this since June, but nonetheless, you can catch a previous episode, let's go with that adjective, of Mattalk Saturdays at noon through the Scene Snobs Network. Once again, thescenesnobs.com. You could drop us a message on the Facebook page at Mattalk Podcast. Look, Larry Hale did it, and we talked about his great email, and we thank you very much, Larry. So if you'd like to hear your name on this podcast, along with, all the other great people that are listening, they'll hear your name. They'll hear about what you said to us. Send those comments over. You can even find us on Twitter, Mattalk_podcast. And Jason, hit them with the email address. Just say it one more time.
BNMATTAOK@gmail.com.
All right. Jason, with that, let's get on out of here, shall we?
We shall, John.
All right. And as they say in court, nothing further. Following has been a joint production of the 3 Geeks Podcast and John Orlando Enterprises, LLC. Copyright 2021.